Welcome to Exiles, a Gospel of Mark podcast. We're coming to you from Grace Church in Erie, Pennsylvania, where we're taking what we learned about ancient truths and the person of Jesus into our everyday life. You can check out whoisgrace.com/Mark for the sermon and resources we're using for our conversation. Thanks for joining us today for Season 4. This section of Mark, the King's Narrow Path, we're following Jesus and his disciples as they turn south from the region of Galilee toward Jerusalem. Each step of the way, Jesus reveals himself through his words and work, bringing his followers ever closer to understanding his identity and his mission that will ultimately lead to the cross. Hello.
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 Hi. How's everybody doing? Cool. Great. So, question of the day, because when this airs, will be past Thanksgiving.
Oh.
So I
Is this
thought
the first of the Christmas theme?
Yeah.
Here we go.
So I thought maybe we could help people build a good Christmas song list.
Oh.
Top couple, one or two favorite either albums or songs.
Favorite Christmas songs.
Yeah.
Wow,
Michael
okay.
Bublé's Christmas album, Every Day, All Day.
Does he only
the
have
whole
one?
thing. There's only one that counts if he has another one. The one from it's like the 2018 or something like that. But
Okay.
It's fan. And the
Oh,
reason
he's like the suit. Does he have the
Yep,
Anyway, he
yep.
has a suit and everything.
The
That doesn't
reason
help.
that album hits hard is I was actually he released it, so then it must have been I was deployed over Christmas 2016, 2017, and I got back December 22nd of 2018 for my third deployment. So 3 straight Christmas seasons I was deployed. So then he must have released it before. In any case, it's like a weird Pavlovian this is what I think of home when I'm so now that's my favorite Christmas album all day.
That's a good one, Mike Chrisman.
Oh, hey, my name is Mike.
My fault.
Hi, I'm Sarah.
Hi, Sarah.
I can't remember the movie now, which is really annoying me because I really like it. What was the new Christmas movie that came out last year or the year before that was with Will Ferrell and Ryan Gosling?
Oh, yeah, Jingle All the... no.
Are you going to Google it? That whole album and that whole movie.
Oh, it's a good album.
Oh, Spirited.
Spirited.
It is so good.
It was like a musical,
Please.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
And the album is fantastic. The songs are great.
Oh, okay.
So
Spirited.
It's in our
rotation
now for Christmas. We listen to that. And then also to, this is totally random, but I'm really excited about Dan and Shay's
Oh, I bet it'll be good.
Christmas album that is being released.
I did not
this
hear about
year.
that.
Oh.
That's huge. Do they have other Christmas albums, or is this their first?
This is their first.
Wow.
They've done Christmas songs, but they've never done an
It's
album.
the obligatory country music artist Christmas album.
Oh, heck
They
yeah.
have to.
That's funny. Okay, what about you, Rob? You have one?
Hey guys, I'm Rob. Thanks for
Hi,
having
Rob.
me.
So glad you're here.
I'm a big fan. I think a modern classic is Sia's album from a few years ago. Sia's Christmas album.
Okay.
The what Christmas
choice.
album?
Wow.
Sia's Christmas album.
Sia.
I don't know what it's called, but it's a full Christmas album
Who's
from Sia.
Sia? Can
You don't know
I-
who Sia
Are you
is?
being for real?
She didn't know what ChatGPT was a couple
Oh,
weeks
that's true.
Sarah, you live in a whole
What am
reality.
I doing?
She's the
all
one
day.
that swang from the chandelier for a little bit. I want to swing from the chandelier. Remember that song?
You
I
could
have a
never
lot
see
to
her face. She had the wig that was half white, half black.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, there we go.
That's what it took.
We're getting there. But
Isn't it funny
that
how
was a
you
good
know
one.
faces, but you don't know celebrity names? You can't put them together sometime. Anyway.
Yeah, sure. That was an unexpected
reality.
pick, Rob. Hot take on there. On
So
that
we'll
one.
have to listen to it.
I'm going to listen to it and Spirited. I've listened to Bublé, but he's in my normal.
Yours?
Mine, okay. Oh, man. So last year or the year before, I think Tommy Prophet came out with an album called Birth of a King, and he did it with an orchestra, live with people. It just has really good reimagined Christmas hymns. It's really good.
Oh wow, you went
That Hillsong album, too. That
My
has
other one is In Sync, Mariah.
okay, good. It made me feel better
I
here.
have
None of
real
us picked
ones.
a faith-based.
No,
okay.
but that one that's my only one that I've been I added it to the rotation.
Yeah.
Recently.
Okay.
So,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I have all please.
the Hillsong album.
Oh,
this
that was
is
a good one.
The one with the orange cover.
Yeah, that was a good
yeah.
one.
The song Prince of Peace is my favorite Christmas song.
That is a very
It
good
is a
song.
very good album.
Yeah.
That's a really good one, too.
Yeah, so give us some songs. You don't like our picks? Email
Please.
us. Help us build our own list, too.
Yep.
I think you can put a comment, too, on Spotify,
Oh.
YouTube.
Can everyone see them?
Or what's your
The comment?
weird one? Let us know your
yeah.
out of left field Christmas one.
Do you know what one I hate?
Oh, please.
Maybe that could be next time.
The
All I
Christmas
want for
thing you
Christmas
hate.
is you.
Yeah. What?
That's the worst one. All I want
Oh.
for Christmas is you.
You hate that
That's
one?
going to give me, people are going to hate me for that one already.
Yeah,
I can
they
tell,
are.
But overplayed.
You're gonna
is
have
what it
it.
comes down
It is.
to.
I mean, it's
What's the
it's-
one? It's adjacent to that, but it's played even more.
The Kelly
Last
Clarkson?
Christmas.
Oh,
Oh.
Yep.
That one's growing
From-
on me, actually.
What?
I used
The
to hate
Ariana
it, but now
Grande?
it's like I'm in the reverse pattern here. It's very interesting.
Or is that Kelly
No,
Clarkson?
It originally was.
Guys, my turtleneck is just.
What do I say? Wham? I don't know. Okay, let's just move on because it's negative. On to love. On to love. Okay.
Love.
So, this week, Pastor Derek's talking about the life we all need. It's out of Mark 12, 28 to 34. And it's around, the whole thing's around the Great Commandment, the greatest commandment. I thought it was, so just like general thoughts, first, I guess, of his intro, I thought it was cool that he talked about the numbness of familiarity. That like really got me
Yep.
thinking in my car. I was like, whoa, like what kind of stuff?
'Cause we
am
hear
I-
it.
Yeah, am I like not paying attention to it 'cause
Sunday
I've
school
heard it so many
days.
times?
Like,
One, it's how, because we are a quote unquote Christian nation, so we get a lot of all of these. We can learn to speak Christianese and hear the same things over and over again. I think of, we were just talking about in January, we're going to, spoiler alert or something like that, but we're going to talk about, what's the sermon series? It's kind of the slowing down,
Practices
the rhythms of,
Jesus.
yeah.
Rhythms of Jesus. Yeah.
In any case, but I think we're going to spend some time in the Lord's Prayer.
Yeah.
That's another thing that I think of that just, boy, you can turn robot real quick and just, but the Lord's Prayer is so deep and rich, just like love God, love your neighbor. It's easy to just pace over.
so I thought about this when and this is further down in his
okay.
message, but, I totally spaced. The name of the prayer or the thing that the Jewish culture says
The
every
Shema.
morning. Thank you. Even then, I thought about that when I was listening. I was like, to them, do they wake up every day and they just do it because it's habit and robotic? Is it still have the same meaning? Does that become just words we say and we just move on and like doesn't have that punch after so long because you've done it for such a long period of time? I wonder what that's like.
I'm sure for some, it's a human thing,
Right.
to have that kind of familiarity gets bred, and then all of a sudden, the shine gets worn off.
Right.
Yeah. I'm so glad he brought this up because I got in super deep thought about this before. I'm a wonderer, by the way, so I wonder about stuff like this.
Geez.
But the word I thought of, and maybe it's not the best word, was like cliche Bible verses, like the
Oh, yeah.
the
Yeah.
Bible verses you see in
100%.
everyone's Instagram bios. And
T-shirts,
I was
stickers.
like, those are actually some of the most impactful, though, but they are also some of the most looked over by us Christians.
Correct.
Like even trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding. Like I've heard that so many times, but in this recent season I was in, it just like hit me like, holy cow, like
Yep.
that is so important and needed in our Christian walk, like every single day. And it's like, we could become so blinded by it. It's like kind of scary.
It's tough too when you're like when you're having conversations with other people and you're trying to be encouraging or you're trying to bring the message and you say one of these verses or even say something remotely close and it doesn't have the impact because they're so used to hearing the cliche verses.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
really real.
Well, these are the things that are way easier to say than to do. It's easy to say, oh yeah, trust in the Lord with all my heart. It's way harder to actually trust.
Do it.
That's
It's
a good
easier
point.
to say love your neighbor. It's way harder to, and Derek gets into it, so
yeah, it's okay.
we'll let it meander, our discussion. But the cliche ones sound so great, but they're way harder to actually walk out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if like Satan was to somebody like, you should put that on a T-shirt. So they stopped paying
Put it in
attention.
your Facebook. That'll be a good witness.
Oh gosh, it should be your Facebook profile. Okay, so big idea. The life we all need is consumed by God's love and contained by God's law. Love defines what it means to live lawfully.
And it makes so much more sense. And this was something that was just, again, all day, every day. Why? Because it wasn't the time for me to see it. Today was the day for me to see it. But it was just so clear that when you make God first and he consumes you, he consumes your thoughts, your heart, your like everything. And you can't help but do the rest of the things that he tells you to do. Like he envelopes you and then you just morph into a certain mindset and actions. So it makes sense. Love God, make him everything. And then you just can't, he will change you into that. Does that make sense? So I was like, oh, doy. And then when he broke down a bunch of the, What is wrong with me today?
That's all right. You
It's
just
okay,
need to
Jen.
drink some more water. I thought it was interesting how he did break down I don't know if you're going here, but like the 10 commandments.
Thank you. The commandments.
Differently. Because they're worded negatively, but they're meant for love.
Yes.
The
Because
beneath.
you cannot, the one that you cannot commit adultery.
Yes.
But you're still not necessarily fulfilling that actual command, because the command is actually
Correct.
to love.
Which Jesus also reveals.
Yes.
The law says don't commit adultery, but I say anybody who looks lustfully, and the bar is
The bar
raised
raises.
beyond what the surface meaning. I think I love that he treated and helped us to see the tension between law and love, and if you have one without the other.
Yeah.
So in the last couple centuries now, the philosopher will come at me, but like rationalism or modernism and postmodernism, I think it's a swing between those extremes. The modernist rationalist thinking was there's rules to everything. There's even like science, and everything can be discovered if we just find the answer. There is an answer. It's black and white. It's concrete, but that doesn't actually work in real life because there's gray. And so that was maybe the 18th, 19th century. Now that we're in the 21st century, it's swung to more postmodernism. Well, my truth is my truth, and your truth is your truth. And that works great too, until my truth says your truth isn't right. Now who's right? But that if you hold only the law, that doesn't actually work in real life. If you hold only love, but there's nothing grounding it, that doesn't work. I love it when Jesus is speaking even to our times now and holding the middle line and showing us the wise way. Even from 2,000 years ago, he's speaking into different forces in our culture now.
Agreed.
I was thinking through this myself a little bit, like weighing the difference between law and love, the balance of it in my life. Do you guys have thoughts on where you currently stand? Would you want to share, like, if you typically fall more on the love side or the law side, or are you pretty balanced right now in life?
What a savage,
Will you
Rob.
say it again?
So that difference between law and love, I guess I could share mine too to open it up, but I kind of realized reading through Derek's sermon that I think I do fall more on the law side, which is interesting because I always thought the law was like negative, like you said, but I feel like the law has given me reason, like a very clear set of practical guidelines to stay away from, like he was saying, that help me to step into love. But I get so caught up on the law side of things that I forget, like, the whole point of everything is to not only receive God's love, but to share God's love with other people, and the work and the sacrifice that comes with the law side of things, or the love side of things. So I think in a lot of my life, I struggle with kind of being more on the law side of things, and this kind of opened my eyes a little bit to, I need to be more loving. I need to be more sacrificial. So
And the law becomes, if you're not careful, it can become a checklist of a
Yes.
to-do.
Yeah.
Instead of, see, I'm doing this, am I doing that? Where actually the law is to guide you to love.
Well, now you have to answer, Sarah. Are you law or love?
I want to be love.
that's tough.
But, I don't know.
It's a good question.
It's a
Rob.
very good question, Rob.
So I would say in an earlier season, at the earlier phases of my spiritual journey was way more law.
Yeah.
I think that's probably still, if I'm going to default somewhere, I probably will default to law, but I have, by God's grace, been able to bring the love and allow some of the gray, allow the tension. I read a book recently, The Critical Journey, and it just it's a book that just lays out, not, methodically, but just as generally, this is the contours and the journey that a spiritual, a walk with Jesus will kind of take you. And one of the fascinating things was often on the front end, people will kind of get more legalistic. When they come to faith, their first reaction is to get legalistic, to kind of grab the law, because it's all new and that's what you're going for. And generally speaking, over time, as sanctification continues, people tend to open themselves up, allow the tension, allow the gray.
Yes.
So I've seen that true in my life.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Oh, yeah. The things that I would hold to when I was 20 versus now. And it's not a backslidden thing. It's not,
Right.
it's not like you think, oh, she's gone. No, it's more just like room for the actual gray that exists. And the secondary issues, to be in play and be okay to be in play. Yeah, that's a good point.
Okay, Rob, thank you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Get ready for more.
Yeah.
geez.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Go ahead.
It's the wonder in me just coming out asking all the.
We're not inviting him
Yes.
back.
No, please keep asking questions. It's good. No, I love it.
too.
I don't. Yeah. That's really good. So, and we're kind of talking about this, but I'm going to take it a little step further. So, God did not give us the law to be a killjoy, nor to give us busy work. God gave us the law to show us how to love.
Yeah. And I think the deeper you go into your journey with Jesus, I think you very much start to see that. It's just like with the parent with their child. They don't set the rules or set guidelines to be mean. They do it because they love them and they know that they'll be their best self and have their best life if they follow these things, because it will give you the best life possible. At first, it seems harsh, or, him being, I don't want to say bossy, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Controlling
like a controlling,
or,
a ruler. But then as you get deeper and deeper into your faith, he really starts to show you that, no, I did these because you are going to have the best life and the best relationship with me if these are in play and you take them seriously.
Yeah. So I'm going to say this. I'm not saying every parent has the right motive. This is not a blanket statement. This is just something I've learned. I didn't realize how much my parents would have had to hate me to not put parameters up in my life until I got a kid.
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
like I think about, I see kids like running around our neighborhood. They're just like doing all sorts of things, and I'm like, man, and I'm not saying their parents don't love them.
Right.
But like there is a next level intentionality and love. And I think God displays this in those guidances, rules, if you will, pathways to follow. Like if it would be way easier to just let my kid do whatever they wanted, but it wouldn't be loving.
It wouldn't
be loving at all.
No.
It would be awful. Anyway.
And it's creating, you guys, I'm so sorry. Like for some reason I am just like a blank space today. It's creating habits.
Listen, it's what it is.
It creates habits, but also just a different mentality when you raise a child that way, or even, just it gets you in a mind space that's healthy and safe, but also leads you to love. And that's all he's trying to do.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, well, there was, as I was talking to someone, and they've, long story short, they fostered somebody for a number of years, and then that child is basically an adult now, but kind of has come back to them for a season because that's her stability. That's her that's the only home she's really ever truly had. So she's back for a season, and they're walking through what it's like to have another adult. It's not a parenting relation. It's an adult.
Yeah.
But so, and the point being, we were just talking earlier about their, we'll just call them like house habits, clean up after yourself, like simple things that this adult now, but had never really learned in childhood, and so doesn't really know to do, and it didn't consider it. It creates barriers, and so they're walking through how do we. It's not parenting anymore, but how do you? Point being, with all that freedom, and this person was never like introduced to this is how to be considerate. This is how society works. It's a hamper now. Yeah. That has to be relearned. It can create barrier. The loving thing is to actually, whether the child wants it or not, show the child.
Give the instruction, give the discipline.
Because it sets them up. Right. Same with God and God's law.
Yeah, that's good. Rob, you seem like you have a question.
No question. I'm just thinking. Well, Sarah's actually got me thinking.
I don't want to move.
No question.
Sarah's got me thinking a little bit. I just related to what she said on just when I was earlier on in my faith and how mad I was at God for like putting on all these rules on me, and I was just like, man, this Christian thing's gonna be so boring with all these rules, and like I can't
the checklist
party anymore. I can't do all the things that the world was fun for me in. So I don't know, but the more I mature in my faith, the more I realize like those boundaries are there to actually help us enjoy life even more, and
that's good,
and just have purpose in life and love ourselves and others more.
And you don't regret the things. At least I don't. I don't regret the things that ever happened before, but now looking back on it, I'm like,
You wish you had the structure or the...
yeah, I probably wouldn't have had so much anxiety, and I probably wouldn't have missed days at a time, and I probably, you know what I mean? It would have been so different, but it also wouldn't have been part of my journey either. The appreciation for how things are now wouldn't be there if I didn't have that space.
For sure.
It's the way I look at it.
It's either John Piper or Tim Keller. I don't know who has the analogy, but like to take a fish out of water and to throw it on land and be like, you're free.
Oh, yeah.
You're free.
You're not free.
You're free. And the fish is suffocating and dying.
Yeah.
The fish was created for the water.
Yes.
We are created
Yes.
to live life according to God's rules. It can seem suffocating, but it's actually for our...
It's so freeing.
We're free to be who we are when we follow God's law.
Yes.
When we go outside of that, we're actually... The freedom's not really that free.
And all he's doing is keeping you away from all the bad. That's
Right.
it. He's just...
And from death.
yes, and he's
Literal-
saving you. Like, it's...
Yeah, it's good.
Man.
Okay, so let's break this down. The life we all need in two parts. So one, we've started on here, but an abiding whole person love of God. And two is a persistent self-sacrificing love of others. So the number one, we've already hit this, but the Shema. But what are we really saying there? When we say the statement that everyone just thinks they know and embody, what are some practical ways we can pull that reminder into our lives?
Right off the bat for me is if you know somebody is in need of something, but it's interfering with either your schedule or it makes you uncomfortable or it makes you feel awkward or it's just something that you don't have time for in your space, maybe take a minute and take a step back and be like, is this in my path for a reason? And am I supposed to put this person first and my schedule can wait? Is that making sense?
Yeah, I mean, it goes to... Pastor
Parties.
Derek brought the kind of savvy follower thing into this section. So, yeah. that
Like
makes
we're
total
going
sense.
all the time. We have 1,000 things to do. We have like, I'll even catch myself sometimes even here at Grace, like working. I'm busy. Like I have a list of things to do and someone's talking to me. And it's literally been in my mind where I'm like, I have to get back to my list. I have to get back to my action items. I have to get back to this. And someone is literally speaking to me and telling me something. And I have to tell myself, Sarah, this person was put in front of you and is confiding in you and talking to you. Shut up and sit here and listen to them. Love them. Like it's okay. The world is not going to flip upside down because you didn't get to your action items or you're running late. Like it's okay. So even from a work aspect with all of you guys, like that's even a thing.
I think when I've got a friend of mine who, him and his wife, and they have 5 kids, which just sounds like pure chaos. But they actually, as a family, before every dinner, they recite the Shema. And I mean, they're Christians. They're fantastic human beings. And it kind of was like, I should probably memorize this too. I mean, it's a very important scripture but they recite it with the idea of that kind of in the middle there. You shall teach these words diligently to your children. You shall. And so that was, having observed that, was convicting to me. And so Emily and I try to be we're going to do it in our house first.
Yeah.
We do it everywhere, but we're going
Yes.
to make sure we do it in our house. The girls have their own Bibles and we get excited about which Bible story we're going to read. And we're pretty consistent every night. Even with boy, if you want to get good on theology, distill it down for a 5-year-old. So the questions I receive are wild, but I try to be very intentional when I get that random, hey, how did Jesus get to heaven? Did he flap his wings and fly? And it's like, well, I'm not going to dismiss that. I'm going to sit in it. Let's talk about that. With Jesus on it. I try to be very intentional with my children to speak of it diligently and productively and lovingly, even from the young age. So that's where my mind goes.
Even
when I think, how do you do
the
this?
eyes of a child and how they observe Jesus is probably so important for us to listen to, because doesn't he tell us to come to faith like a child would? Because it makes you think about him in a very different space that's probably really needed. So I'm really glad that they ask you those questions because I think that's really sweet.
I get all kinds of.
Can you keep a log of them kind of and bring them
It would be a fascinating.
here?
Write a book.
They're also like fascinated with like Jesus. Anytime they see a cross, like Jesus died on a cross. The bad guys gave him all the boo-boos. And I've had to be like, Jesus died on the cross. And then what happened? And they get all excited. And they're like,
Yeah.
he came alive again. I'm like, okay, we can't go halfway. We got to get the whole.
Yeah.
That's sweet.
Dax went through that phase too. He was like making like etchings in styrofoam of like crosses. I'm like,
Wow.
what's going on, dude? Like the 3 crosses. And he's like, well, the bad guys killed Jesus. And whatever. I'm like,
Okay, good.
it's
We're
like,
not-
I think it's like a developmental.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
I hope so.
Because
I
he's
mean,
over it now. I mean, he was
Okay.
definitely probably like 5, 6. Like he.
I'm happy
just
it's on
choices.
her mind.
It's great.
Like,
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a good
but
thing.
it's like helping
Yeah.
to kind of, okay.
Yeah, get
This
the
is
other side of it.
fascinating to
And he, the first time I tried to tell him the rest of the story, you know, he goes, I don't know about that, and just walks away. I'm like, okay, all right. So
That seems far-fetched.
my son's an atheist and a sadist, so he
I'll
just
tell
like,
you what, just to continue the gravy train rolling. So actually, so what's
This
what's
is
going on
great.
now is we'll be like, well, God the Father, and like, oh yeah, and then it's, and Jesus is God's son, and Sophia will be like, Dad, I thought you said there's one God.
oh boy,
Yep.
Yeah.
Break it down.
Really good
Okay,
test of
let's
theology,
learn the
man.
word Trinity. I've had no success thus far explaining that to her, but
ChatGPT.
I'll never forget
Please
trying to
create an image
yeah,
of
that's
the
what
Trinity.
you should do. I'll never forget when I finally caught onto that. That's like pivotal.
Let's have him read the shack.
kids are wild.
Totally
Gonna keep
joking.
you sharp as a pastor, man.
Yeah, that will keep you sharp.
Yeah.
Put that in the mix. Another question I had real quick.
Yeah, sure.
When you were talking about the family that does, what was it called again?
The Shema.
Shema. Does they do it? Do they say it in Hebrew?
No. I mean, they do. They're definitely American.
I didn't know if they knew. Well, I didn't know if they
Shouldn't
like
like it
knew the
anymore.
language
Yeah,
and like
yeah,
did
yeah.
it in
Yeah,
Hebrew
cool.
just cause.
But it's a cool. But even that is like you'll teach them diligently. Even just
Yeah.
the recitation of scripture together as a family. I was like, because they had kids before Emily and I did. I'm like,
That's
I'm
good.
gonna get me some of that. Like,
Because
that's
even
cool.
if it doesn't stick now,
Correct.
because they hear it, somewhere in their journey, God's going to bring that to the forefront and they're going to be like, aha! Like, and those moments are so pivotal in anyone's life when he makes things click.
Yeah. I wonder if you could take that another level even and like have different questions at different ages that you would ask like later in the night or something that have to do with
There is a
The Shema.
fantastic resource, the New City Catechism.
yeah.
It's 52 questions and answers, and it's a newer catechism, but it's supposed to, it kind of goes with the contours of the year, 52 weeks, 52 questions. They have one for children,
Oh, okay.
and so it's like, who is God? And then the full one will have a very theological
cool.
answer,
I like
but then
that.
there's even like a very
Yeah, like
I mean,
a kid
attainable, child-friendly. Like, who is God? Well, God is
sponsor.
I
No, I love it. That's great.
But-
That's
but
a good resource.
those kind of questions that
that's
help
great.
you, yeah.
That's good. Okay. Oh, this was also, I thought this was so funny because it's so true. This is where Derek was talking about asking his kids to clean their room. Because he's just reinforcing the point, like God's love language is obedience. And not that those things are bad, like go have a Bible study, go to it's not bad. It's just when you put it in that context, it's really
was-
funny. And it's
it
kind
was.
of, to Rob's point, did we like materialize and market things that were just too hard to deal with? So we could just like kind of put them on a shelf and like those are taken care of. Yep. But we're not doing the thing.
Oh yeah, it's
Because the action is scary, right?
Correct.
The
Yeah.
the action,
difficult, yeah.
it's difficult, it's awkward, it's uncomfortable. You're afraid you're going to do it wrong. You're afraid you're going to upset somebody.
and you're talking about cleaning your room right now.
Cleaning my room.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
it's
right.
terrifying.
It's terrifying.
Sure is.
Poor
You
Ben.
guys, I had a terrible. Did you guys grow up? My room was a disaster all the time growing up.
Oh, growing up, that was always my like. You
For
can't do
Ben's
anything
sake, are
until
you better now?
Oh my gosh! Like now I'm way on the. I'm too
know
far
why?
over.
because you had to clean it all the time. Your parents could have just let you like
So
live in your
now
filth,
I'm like,
and you
right.
would be.
And there was one time where it got so bad, and I just didn't do it. My dad bagged everything and said I threw it away.
That literally happened to me. I'm not even kidding.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. Same.
He took it all and he hid it, and I didn't know.
Yep.
Like, but he was like, "All your stuff's gone. I asked you." I obviously got it back. He truly didn't throw it away.
They must have went to the same parenting school.
But yep.
Did that actually change you
I'm
after
too
that?
clean, huh?
Was there a clear difference after that? Did you always clean your room after that? or did
No,
it-
I got my stuff back.
What? It changed me. Well, you know what?
I got my stuff back and I was like, sucker, you know what I mean? And then I moved on with my life. I mean, I was better about it, but I wasn't like.
Sarah's story is coming into context now.
Sure is.
But it doesn't mean I never disobeyed him again in regards to my room. It just never got to that extreme. Like I'd be like, all right, I know how far I can actually push it.
Yeah.
And I'd push it.
So like this is not. I think he would be fine with me sharing this. So Dave and I have two very different outlooks on time.
Yeah.
My outlook is when you say you're going to be somewhere at some point in time, you go at that time. So we'll be there at 8. You're there by 8. Not 7:30, whatever, but you're there by 8. His thing is like, we'll start to think about going there at 8.
I relate.
I'm exaggerating a little bit, but you know what I mean.
I relate.
So do you tell him to be there a half hour early because you know he's going to be a half hour late?
Well, I can't talk to you about that. So anyway.
Okay.
It's a strategy.
Yeah.
She can't.
So, but
Dave might be listening.
So the point, though, is
I do it to bed.
when I was younger, I have a very vivid memory. I went through a stint. It had to do with something on the school bus. Like I didn't want to ride the bus. I don't remember why. Probably a bully thing or something.
The bus really was awful.
Nothing good ever happened on school buses.
The
But
back
anyway.
of the bus, the whole thing.
So I started like pretending to sleep through my alarm and do things so my mom and dad would have to take me to school in the morning. So they gave me like 3 to 5 warnings, like this needs to stop, whatever. So this one day my mom said, if you do this again, you're walking to school.
And you're like, no way.
I'm like, she's
not
like,
gonna
you
do
can't
that.
be late, you can't have tardies, it's not good, you know, all the things. Next day, do the same thing, get up, and she is just like sitting in the chair. She is not doing a thing. And I had to walk all the way to school.
How far are you talking?
It was so
Was it like the dead of winter?
For her little leg, there's like
It was
15
winter.
miles.
It was like from like a little bit west of Peach Street to J.S. Wilson, like, I mean, a couple miles, a few miles.
Woo-wee.
And
How
if
old
it's
were you?
cold out, I
In
mean,
the cold? Wow.
I would have been probably 6th grade.
Savage.
Yeah.
Do you know how
I
hard that
never
was
late
for her
again.
to do it?
Oh, I know. And so
Ooh.
on the other side, Dave's dad, this sounds way worse than it is, but it's pretty bad. He got remarried, and he moved to across town, but he let Dave stay in the original house to finish school in his high
yeah.
school.
Yep.
But he literally let him stay in the house
alone.
And like they would see each other and you know whatever.
Pop in and like check on
He
make
had,
sure I had
he had a
food.
credit card. He had a car. He had his
Wild.
whole everything for the last like 2 years of his high school. Could do whatever he wants. He had someone bail him out. He almost didn't graduate. They're like, "Oh yeah, you had like 68 tardies. It's fine. Everything's fine. We know your mom died. Da 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 da. Like all this stuff." And there's like tragedy and there's like stuff in there,
Yeah.
whatever. But like,
Well,
he's never cared a lick. And I'm not saying his dad didn't love him. It's just an example of like.
Yeah.
Freedom, like it was probably awesome. It was like friends always at the
Yep,
house, like
yep.
doing all
Yeah.
this stuff.
nobody like holding you accountable
Yeah.
to an extent.
Yeah,
68
and, I mean,
tardies.
Dave's a responsible person. I'm
Yes.
just saying, like, that's one way that we're different because
Yes.
of that kind of thing.
Yes. 68
And now you get to enjoy.
And now
everybody
here,
your husband.
and here we go.
I
Balance.
used to be tardy.
Well,
all the
and
time,
vice
too.
versa, because he'll get mad at me. Like if we're at TSA line, he like yells because I have like all my stuff out,
Ready
I'm like,
to go.
I have my license, I have my stuff. I'm like ready.
Yep.
He gets up to the person. It's like he's never done it before. He's like, "Oh hey, what do you need something?" I'm like. Meanwhile, my bag's on the belt.
Yes.
I'm like out, and he's just like
You're on the plane.
chatting with the guy. I'm like,
Oh
get
man,
me out of here.
That's bold too, because those people are scary. Those security guards.
No, he doesn't even care.
Man,
He doesn't
yeah.
care.
I
Anyway, sorry, that was the
yes.
that was the biggest
Dave-
Exiles tangent.
So Dave is very much type B.
Oh yeah.
And what Danielle is also saying is a wonderful counterbalance to her. She needs Dave to keep her sane.
because I'm too like
Yep.
rigid.
I can't wait to see how Dax turns out.
He'll,
Be his own.
he'll
But-
be fine.
See.
So, all right, bringing
Sorry,
that.
that's
It all counts, but bringing it back to full
does.
circle. The idea of, God's love language is obedience.
yes.
I think, and again, we can. The cleaning your room analogy is fantastic because I
It
think
is.
it's our default here in American
Right.
Western Christianity. Talk about it, learn about it, think about it, believe in it in my head, but not in my heart. Because if it's in my heart, I'm going to actually act on it.
Yep.
I've recently, I think the Spirit's been putting on me more and more success is not results, whether that result is talking about it, thinking about it, learning about it, the Greek, all that. Like, success is obedience.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it doesn't really matter the outcome necessarily, as long as I'm being obedient, and obedience means doing what God has asked me to do.
And like when you really get to at least for me, when I got to a certain point in my faith, if I start to feel like convicted about something or something starts being on my mind a lot, I know that it's him, right? And I'm like, here we go. He's going to change me. Something's going to shift. And you know it's going to, you're like, oh, you know what's coming. And it's a lot of emotion. You're scared, but you're really excited because you know on the other side of it, man, you're going to feel so great about it. And it's going to be exactly what is needed. But that's...
Wow. Amen to that.
Yeah.
That gets like
And it's hard
uncomfortable.
because for some people, what you're talking about is 10 years. And for some
Yes.
people, it's like a week.
Yep.
It depends what's
Yep.
going on, right?
Yeah.
Oh, it's
And
coming.
so the longer it is, the harder it is. Yeah.
Yes.
And I think some of it is just, what if I, if I'm going to love my neighbor now?
Yeah, good.
Yep.
What is that actually going to, like, what are the consequences of that? Good and bad. And that can be paralyzing.
Yes.
And in place of doing it, you can study about it, you can talk about it, you can learn it in the Greek, but I just don't. What if it goes wrong?
Yeah.
But that's right. I'm learning to go, who cares if it goes wrong? You're not asked to own the outcome. You're just asked to be obedient.
Thank you.
What did that
Thank you
be?
for saying that. I needed to hear that.
Good. I need to
Thank
hear
you.
that.
One thing on obedience that really stood out to me that Derek said in his sermon was that our love for God expresses itself in obedience to his instruction. And for me, I had that so twisted, even in my, for years in my Christian walk, I would read the commandments and the laws, and I'd be like, okay, I have to do this to show love for God or to make God happy for me or whatever. And I'm kind of in this season right now, honestly, where God's really showing me this and how important it is that it's God's love for us and our relationship with God that leads to that obedience.
Right.
Yes.
And I think there's a lot of people out there. I don't think I'm alone in that. I think there's a lot of people that are really struggling with, just trying to make God happy, or just like maybe we were trying to make our parents happy, or whatever that looks like. But to me, that's profound. That was like a profound realization in my walk. This whole just receiving God's love and then letting that
Yes.
inspire me to step into obedience.
It's a sequencing. You're not doing it to get God's love. You are loved, so you get to do it.
Right.
And
out
don't
of
we
that
get
love.
it mixed up?
Exactly. Yeah.
Also, too, this popped in my head when you were talking. We also have to, from another point of view on it, we have to be careful because if we go through the list of commandments, we're like, well, I don't do that, and I don't do that, and I don't do that. So I'm a good Christian, and you know what I mean? And we get in our, like, we think we're just doing so well, and it's like, newsflash.
Where's Steven? He wants to do his verse.
Be be like very careful because
You can never be good.
never,
Period.
never.
It's the Tim Keller quote at the end.
Oh, yeah. Never
that
be
was
good
good.
enough.
Okay,
Yeah,
I
that
was
was
like read every Tim Keller book, apparently.
Your heart is more deceitfully wicked than you could ever imagine. The corollary.
Hashtag
You
Steve's
are more
office.
loved than you could ever
Guardy
imagine.
Lou.
Guardy Lou.
Does that still come up in the podcast, huh?
Every
That's
now and then,
still-
yeah.
that's still a
People
thing.
talk to him about it a
I
lot.
love that.
He just brought it up a couple weeks
That
ago.
was like
Someone
the third
stopped him.
podcast we've
Yeah.
ever
I'm telling
did,
you, we
and
need a
wow.
shirt or something.
Yeah,
Carve
hashtag.
that space out.
It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Oh, Steven.
So one of the wildest things about this, I think, in my opinion, is Jesus gives the two sides of this, right? Love God, love people. And then, though, he says, there is no greater commandment than these. So he syncs them up.
And then he goes, I am Lord.
So, whoa. So you can see why people, even without the story there, like, why they were like, what?
And that I
Like,
didn't. Yeah.
it's that important that I need to love somebody? Is it really? Like, that's, and I think for me, that's I don't know.
I like how he said, loving them doesn't mean that you have to agree with everything they want to do or are, doing with their life or the decisions that they're making. Loving them could also be telling them a different side in a loving way based on what they're doing. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, it helps to again, it balances. It's easy to emphasize one half.
Sure.
It's hard to hold them both in tension. I can say, well, I'm going to love God,
Yep.
and I'm going to go to seminary, and I'm going to learn all these things. And you can do a lot of things to love God, but you're not actually. I mean, what you're like, you're not treating your neighbors well. You're not treating your family well.
Yeah.
You're that. It's easy to do that and to treat people poorly, but be the curmudgeon that.
There's like a disconnect there somehow.
Correct.
Yeah.
The flip is, and we see
Yes.
the social gospel, and there are social issues that the church should absolutely be leading and tackling. However, when you go so far as to like these issues to champion them without God, without Jesus, everyone's loved, everyone's accepted. We're going to do all these things.
Yeah.
But if you pull the love of God out of it, then you're actually not. It's kind of that freedom without. We do need constraints. We're built
Yes.
from it.
Yep.
By tying them together, you now can't emphasize. You have to live in that
You
tension.
have to use the one
Yep.
for the other. Yeah. That's good. Other thoughts on love, loving people? It's hard.
You guys, there's a big bug
Where? What?
over there. I'm sorry. That's why I pointed. So I was like,
Okay.
I reacted. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Well, if you're
Everybody,
That
there's
was
a
a
bug
distraction.
in the
There's a bug in
studio
the
right now.
There's a bug
You
in
mean
the
there?
studio.
Send your prayers, please.
So, personally, I think the second half of this is the thing that most Christians probably struggle with more than
In our context.
in our context. Yes, sorry. And for me, I don't know, I was very convicted in my car because a lot of times I get, and I know it's like a joke, but a lot of times people say like, oh, Danielle hates people. I don't hate people
No, you
at
don't.
all.
You don't.
At all. At all. But I think I just present as like annoyed or whatever it is. But like, I don't hate people. But, and this is not a plea, this is not like sympathy or whatever. I'm just giving you my perspective. Most often when I'm walking into a room or walking into a space or going across the street, talking to my neighbor or whatever, and again, this is not for sympathy, I'm just telling you, my brain says, you aren't wanted here. Like, you're not needed here. You're not in a
Your brain
self-deprecating.
says to you.
Yeah, to me. Like, oh, they don't need to hear from you. Oh, you don't need to. And it's not even like a self-esteem thing. It's more of just like a mental usefulness thing.
I told you.
The bug is back.
It is on her water.
Like,
Hey, Exilers. It is the biggest stink bug I've
somebody's
ever.
gotta do something.
Okay.
Thank you, Mike.
That's a big bug.
Anywho,
Your brain tells you.
your brain tells. So yeah, so I put up like it's kind of a personal shield, you know. I'm working on it, but anyway, it prevents me. What I realized in the car is like that's not just hurting me; it's preventing me from doing what God is asking me to do, and I'm painting myself in a light on accident that isn't true.
Do you believe that it's absolutely Satan's way of stopping you from doing what you're going to do because he doesn't want you to do it and he knows how to get to you?
Yeah, I don't know
and
if
put
it's
down.
yeah. It could. I hate giving him credit.
I know.
but like I feel like that's probably part of it, but also just
He plants that
it
seed.
is part of how I'm wired, and that is just
And he knows that.
sin, fall, all that kind of stuff. But yeah,
And he uses it.
yeah. And I'm not
against
saying it
us.
as an excuse. I'm just saying it hit me like, whoa, I need to figure this out. Don't care about the result, but don't be so preoccupied with what the person is gonna do with what,
Yep.
how you interact.
If you feel the Holy Spirit nudging you to do something,
something.
if you're obedient in it, that's successful, whatever the
Yeah,
outcome.
I need to get my brain around that.
And even when you push through that thought and you have the experience with the person and you walk away and you're like, okay, that was pretty legit, in my mind, I'm always like, I want to hang on to that. So when the next time comes, I remember that this last time I did it, it was okay, but I don't always do that. Because you get like the thought and the doubt and the awkwardness gets in the way. It's a constant,
Yeah.
will it be like this forever?
No.
No, it absolutely won't, thank goodness.
Yes. No, I mean, why we're here though.
Oh, yes. It
Probably.
Will.
Probably.
Yeah,
It will always be.
It will always
And
be.
you just have to keep barreling through.
I think
Just
that's
like the stink bug. Go ahead, Ruff.
I think that's one of the coolest things about this sermon, though, is like Derek started out by saying this is a deep sermon. Like this this is like a deep thought sermon, and probably one of those that we could all go back and listen to a million other times.
Oh, yeah.
But like, as I was listening to it, just like the concept of love and how that led to similar thoughts like you, Danielle, just like how when we start thinking from this perspective and this starts shifting our minds, like how it starts revealing things in our life that we were so blinded to that might be hurting others or unintentionally, of course,
Right.
or even hurting ourselves. But yeah, I'm trying to think of a specific example, but I know for sure as I was listening through this too, I'm like, man, like I can really, really do better at loving others by receiving God's love and the whole connection. There's so much to it, but I personally can't wait to like re-listen to this sermon a few more times and and see what else comes from it.
And it can be as simple as and real quick, like when I'm coming home and I see my neighbor outside,
Hey.
waving and being willing to step into a 4-minute conversation.
Exactly.
I think it's as simple as, and I try to, because again, when I go to the store too, I'm like, I got to get these things. And when I'm going through the checkout line, look at the name tag.
Yes.
Hey, Rachel, it's good. I am doing well. How are you doing? Like, and that sounds so dumb and kitschy, but like, imagine how many people just don't say a word, walk. Like,
Oh, yeah.
It can be as dumb as that. Like showing the love of Jesus just by seeing and engaging in a conversation, eye contact, name. So, I mean,
And that's even just training wheels. That's great.
Correct.
Like, yeah. It's like a literally low stakes.
So low.
Yeah. That's a good, Mike.
I have a story that
Oh.
I think this would help tie in
Great.
even to the end. So I have a very, very good friend. I won't say her name, but somebody outside of our friendship, this was a total random person. Because this person obeyed God, it shifted her entire trajectory of her relationship with Jesus. And this was the story. She is out. She is out running errands. She's had a really tough week. She has children. She was stressed. And this woman walked up to her and looked her right in the face and was like, I just want you to know that Jesus loves you and he sees you and he knows what's going on, and walked away from her. That moment alone shifted everything for her. And her and I had already, very much had conversations about Jesus. Jesus wasn't a blank space to her, but it took that. So you really don't know what everyone's moment is or what everyone is literally going through. So your cashier, by you making eye contact and smiling and asking them how they're doing, and somehow it leads to something else, you just don't know what it's going to do after that moment.
Yeah, and you don't know like to your point, what seeds have already been planted, that you're just kind of a part of the...
Yes, and she burst into tears. She got in her car and she called me immediately.
Oh, yeah, cool.
And I was so excited, but then I was like, I wanted to be her moment. You know what I mean? But I was like, fine, Jesus, that's fine. Like, you can use it. But this other woman, like, do you imagine how scary that was for that woman to come up to someone she has no idea? But God was like, I need you to go do this. And she was like, okay.
And even these smaller things, we're not just saying be a nice person.
No.
We're saying like,
Listen.
God loves you, sees you, you're his image bearer, you're deeply loved.
Yeah.
Go be an extension of that love, even in the small ways.
Yep.
God can do whatever the heck he wants with that.
Exactly.
Amen. And I think it's worth mentioning too, Derek said toward the end of his sermon, and I actually wrote it down, he said, when I fall short, I can't get better enough. To love God fully and to love people fully, I need grace. So I think in all of this, it's so good to remember, like,
We do a whole podcast
we're going to be falling. Yeah, exactly. Like, we're going to be falling short in this, like I was saying earlier, when I was reading through this, I was so convicted by how much more self-sacrificial I could be in loving and everything. But I need to remember that the grace is there. The grace is so needed in all this. Otherwise, I'm just going to be putting that burden on myself. Like, I'm not good enough in this. I'm not good. And I never will be good enough. And I think that's just so important to remember that we need God's grace in all of this, period.
That's great. So let's end with that. And our next our discipleship question, what is your next small step of obedience? It's kind of a perfect question. And if you want to look up a Dream Disciple tool, you can do that at whoisgrace.com/Dream Disciple. The Savvy Follower one would be good. I discern God's voice, follow his lead at the right time and in the right way. So those two things together would make for a really interesting week, probably, if you put those to practice. Again, as always, you can go to whoisgrace.com/Mark for more resources. You can also submit a question or a Christmas song and let us know how you're feeling about the podcast, etc. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you